Hello everyone. Today we're going to be working on a commission I received about a month ago. This was a harder commission. They requested it because I have done my playmats in the past for the Digimon TCG as well as Digimon regular for mousepads. And I certainly enjoyed this, but it was insanely hard. This Digimon group is called the Three Musketeers, and I've only heard about them while I was playing the new Digimon TCG. So I started out with a little bit more of a perspective look out on it and seeing how everything can work, got the sketch taken care of, and then got approval for the sketch, and obviously jumped right into the rest of the line art. Now, with this, these Digimon are all gun-based, so they're heavily on the metallic, and this guy right here, Gundramon, has, I believe I counted 27 minimum guns on him. So that's a lot of ellipses, that's a lot of circles, that's a lot of things that I had to render out and get into the correct perspective. And I think that was probably the most difficult part about this piece. Other than that, most of these other characters have guns or some form of finger guns to shoot out. And I think that was pretty cool to see the different designs of them. Now, when it came to the line art, because they're so specific on the medals or the gun formations, there wasn't much room for error when it comes to something like clothing, where you could do a little flourish here and there. So that was kind of the stretch, especially since this is one of those rare pieces where I have multiple characters that are kind of in a semi-focal aspect for this piece. And having that perspective and understanding for this piece stretched me quite a bit, especially when it came to some monster like Gundramon, where every line could be a part of a gun, and you need to make sure that every aspect of that is in perspective, as well as with the others, and trying to make do with what I can when I can. And that's kind of the cool aspect about doing commissions like this, is working on getting everything right for the client and when I'm working things through. This piece was super fun. Obviously, once I got into a good groove with everything, I was able to work and get most of the aspects of this piece quickly, and trying to make sure that there's spots for the memory tracker, for the playmat style, for the TCG, was kind of a interesting compositional way to think around everything. Because most of my past Digimon playmats I've designed with the idea of having a playmat later, but not necessarily where the memory trackers were, just focusing on the art. And this time I tried to focus on the memory trackers as much as I focused in on the illustration as well, like trying to make sure that the placement of them fits the composition as much as the rest of the characters. And that was kind of the interesting point of this. Now, with that, I wanted to keep the buildings and everything as simple as possible, trying to give kind of like a 90s cyberpunk Spider-Man 2099 vibes to it. And that's kind of where I pushed the colors to being a little bit more blue and purple for everything, so that there is that night sky in the background, but it still is very much a part of everything, and keeping all the lights on and trying to make sure everything works out smoothly is kind of a main aspect for this. As we are now into the rendering phase of this, I really wanted to try to keep the metallic vibe of everything, and trying to understand the reflectiveness of the city with the metallics is always a difficulty. I tend to lean towards metallic creatures recently when it comes to my illustrations with Gundam, Blackwood Greymon, and a bunch of the past pieces that I've done in the past year. And that's kind of the crazy thing that I've done recently, because what do you mean I've been working on metal so much this year? But other than that, this was pretty fun to render and try to figure out the process for how to make these as crisp and clean as possible, and trying to see what exactly I can do to improve these pieces even further and gain things moving in the right direction for the client. As my normal process when it comes to commissions are a little bit more of a, hey, here's my sketch, here's the line art, I'm going to start going into the rendering and I will send you the final when it gets there. Obviously, there's going to be a few little nitpicks that might happen after the rendering is done, but those tend to be a little easier to finish up and get everything into the correct aspect that the client wants. That's kind of the fun thing about working with commissions as much as possible. This piece was super fun to work on, even though it gave me a headache sometimes with the amount of line work that it had. I really enjoy pieces like this as much as possible because this tries to stretch my skills in areas where I'm not super fan of or not a huge fan of the characters or anything, and this gives me time to experience these characters in aspects that I would not normally put myself in. That's kind of the cool thing about doing commissions or freelance work in general. And with the rendering going on so smoothly, this was kind of an interesting aspect. Now, for this time lapse, I am using the Clip Studio Paint feature for it because most of this did happen off of stream. So I didn't have a whole lot of recording that I did with this piece like I normally do, because I wanted to get this taken care of as quickly as possible, especially with how busy the holiday season is. And I thoroughly think that doing that has helped me get into a better position with this piece and being able to figure out how everything is going to look when it's finally done. And this piece was, again, really fun to work on, and the having multiple characters. The aspect of having multiple characters is definitely really cool, and I think this would be fun to do in the future some more and seeing what else I can continue working on as a freelance illustrator and seeing maybe what other commissions I can do with the Digimon TCG. Now, I do plan to make one more TCG playmat before I make my order of playmats to get everything ready and so that you guys can maybe purchase some of your own. The next one that I plan to do is a Jessmon, the Royal Knight Digimon, as quickly as possible because I am wanting something a little bit more fun for the tournament that I'm going to be going to. But other than that, thank you so much for watching this video. Leave a comment what you guys think of this commission piece and let me know what you guys think of my art. And I will see you guys all again next time in the next video. And hope you subscribe and like the video. Bye!